Okay, thank you everybody for coming. We're facing, I don't even have to say, I'm not even going to say, because there's no adjective that can be put on this time. I guess I'll put on this a special. We're facing a special time. It's fascinating to think that we might call it a catastrophic failure of Israeli intelligence, or we might not. We might call it a nace, because in this environment, with the way that Israeli intelligence has worked until now, it's not that it's worse than we thought, or it came sooner than we thought, or it's bigger than we thought. We didn't think. We had no clue. And if we had no clue that something like this was going to happen, it's got to be Yad Hashem. It's got to be that we were made blind the same way Hashem opens our eyes, Hashem can close our eyes. And for whatever reasons, he knows the reasons that he's doing it. And our job is to be in the place where he places us right now. So that's where we are. So I think I'm going to open with a thought about death, and then a thought about life, and a thought about where we're going. So I'm going to open with the thought about dying that Rav Aryeh Kaplan shared with a mother who was taking care of her son with cancer, who was dying. And she wanted to know how to explain death to him, what it was going to feel like. He asked her, will it hurt? What is it going to be like when I die? And she said to him, you know how sometimes you fall asleep in Ima and Abba's bed. And then after you're sleeping, Abba picks you up and brings you back to your bed. And in the morning, you wake up right where you're supposed to be in your own bed. Says, yes. Well, that's sort of what death is like. You fall asleep, and then your Abba in Shemayim, Hashem, picks you up and takes you right to where you're supposed to be. And you wake up right where you're supposed to be. So it's a beautiful thought that Hashem takes us to be right where we're supposed to be. And Hashem loves us so much, there is no way that he's not taking us right where we're supposed to be. And all of the Kedoshim that have died throughout all the millennia of our long Gullus, and it's been long, and even before the Gullus, starting with Gullus Mitzrayim, all of those Kedoshim have been gathered up by Hashem and brought to right where they're supposed to be, which is a place of perfection with Hashem. We're all in this world only so that we can grow, only so that we can shape our neshamas while we're here. Kol ha'olam klo gesher tsar ma'od. Here we are on this very narrow bridge of a world, but the world is bridging something. Like, what is, if the whole world is a very narrow bridge? So what is it bridging? But it's bridging the world of souls to the world of souls. So we're a soul before we're born, and we're going to be a soul after we die. We wear this body for however long we're here in this world, so that we can make the choices and use this body as a tool interacting with this world, so that through this body we can transform our soul. That's the whole purpose, so that our soul exits differently than it entered. That's why we're here. We are all going to exit. There's nobody. I mean, maybe there's 4 people in the history of the world that didn't die, but there's nobody that didn't die. Basically, we're all going to die. If we're here, we're going to die. We're all descended from people who died. We're all going to give birth to people who die. That's what happens. But the thing is, how do we live? How do we use the time that we have while we're here to transform our souls, so that it's not that our life is snuffed out in the end, so that when we go on to the next phase of existence, when our body gives birth to our soul, then that birth is into the place that we want to be, is into the relationship that we want to be in. So we have this opportunity to use our bodies and use our circumstances on this planet to grow our souls and create the relationship with Hashem that we're supposed to create, but not just to create our own relationship, to create the light that lights up this entire world. That's the job of the Jew. The job of every human being is to transform their soul while they're here. The job of the Jew is to transform their own soul, and also to add to the collective light of the Jewish people. And our job collectively as the Jewish people is to illuminate the whole world with our light. Light is something that you see. It's not something that you hear. So we have to behave that light into this world. That's what our bodies are for. That's what the mitzvot are for. That's what the Or HaTorah is for, that the Or of the Torah should permeate our beings and radiate from our souls into the entire world and shine a light that illuminates a path forward to everyone in this entire world, Jew and Gentile. Everything is meant to be lit up by the Or HaTorah that shines through us to everywhere and everything. That is our job. I'm going to share with you some words that I wish I knew exactly who shared them. I should look again at the name of the person because I want to quote to bring Geula into the world. Let me just see. Debbie Greenblatt shared them with me, but they are from Rav Moshe Rott. Okay, so I'm sharing his words. So he writes an article, and the first thing is that Hashem is gozer umakayim. We say that regularly, that Hashem decrees and supports. Whatever decree he gives us, he supports us through the decree. And many people in their own lives and have certainly heard stories, but also in their own lives have felt when something has been decreed for them, or it feels like against them, that they've been given special koach to go through that decree, to hold it up, to be upheld through it, to manage through it, to go through it, to handle it, to grow through it. Bezrat Hashem, that when something is given to us, we're also given the strength to work with it. It's something that we can hear and also ask for. In the bracha, Sha'asali kol tzarki, that Hashem makes all, Sha'asali kol tzarki, that Hashem makes for me all my needs. What does that mean? It could mean that Hashem gives me everything that I need, but it could also mean that anything I need, I only need it because Hashem made me need it. It's the same grammar. Sha'asali kol tzarki, Hashem made all my needs for me, or Hashem gave me all my needs, both. And Hashem did both, actually. Anything that we need, it's only because Hashem made us need it. And everything that we need, Hashem gives us. And if we don't have it, we don't need it, because Hashem gives us everything that we need for whatever journey we're on. Which is why I started with Hashem scooping us up with love and bringing us to the place that we need to be when we die. But he also does it when we're alive. He scoops us up with love, and he places us exactly where we need to be, whether it's in easy circumstances or challenging circumstances, whether it's in raising a child or being married or not being married, or waiting for a child to come home or waiting for a child to come from Shemayim, whatever it is, he put us in the exact right circumstances wherever we need to be, and he put us there with love. Because there's a journey for us, and because there's a journey individually and also collectively. So we could see our journeys in the context of our own individual life, where we need to go, but also there's much more than we could ever understand because we're part of the Jewish people. And as part of the Jewish people, we're woven into a fabric of something much bigger than our life, and much bigger actually than our generation. It's millennia long. We've been doing this for millennia, not even decades, not even centuries, for thousands. We count our history in thousands of years, 3,000 plus years of the Jewish people being tasked with bringing light into the world. And it will happen in the end. There's going to be an absolute revelation. Think about this attack and what it was like, so fast, out of nowhere, and so terrible. But if so fast and so terrible can happen so quickly, so can Geula happen so quickly, out of nowhere. It's going to feel like out of nowhere. It can happen that fast, that quick, that glorious, can light up the whole world. And it will happen. I hope we'll all get to see it. And I hope it's going to be very, very soon. And right now we're going to talk about what to do until we get there. And hopefully we won't have to put any of this into practice because it's going to happen even before the end of this. But just in case it doesn't, we should know that Hashem is gozer umakayim. So first of all, we get the strength to be makayim as we go along. He's Mekayamus in anything that he's gozer on us. But point 2 of this article by this Rav Moshe Rot is that he's not Mekayim anything we are gozer on us. When we step into stupid places, and I don't mean make mistakes, I mean do things that we shouldn't do, like, for instance, doom scroll. Look at horrible pictures of the tragedies of our people. Nobody told us to do that. That's not our gzeira to see that. That's us choosing to look at that, and Hashem doesn't give us the special kiyum to bear that trial. If Hashem wanted us to see that, he would have put us there to see that. And those people who are in those places that see that get a special siyata d'shmaya to handle that in their life. And it's woven into whatever it is, which doesn't mean they're not going to be traumatized by it, but that's their trauma that was designed for them. And Hashem gives them the siyata d'shmaya to work with that in their journey, their personal journey, and their part of the Jewish people's journey. But that's not our journey. We don't need to be seeing that. The way that we're nosei ba'ol is not by looking at horrible pictures, but by keeping up the morale and the strength to know that we fight that with light. That's our journey. Our journey is to be nosei ba'ol, is to carry we usually translate carrying the burden, nosei ba'ol, but actually that's not what it is. It's not the burden, it's the yoke, like getting the ol malchut shamayim, ol, right? So an ol is an interesting thing to think about. I used to take my kids to Old Bethpage Restoration Village on Long Island back in the day. It was a place we really enjoyed going. And it's restored to the 1860s. They brought houses from all over Long Island to create a village of actual houses that never were together in one village, but now are, but all at the same time. It's a working farm. And they had oxes with a yoke. And we know, for instance, that the Torah tells us, it's one of the mitzvot deraisa, that you're not allowed to yoke an ox and a donkey together. For instance, you can't do that, but it's an ol. What does that ol look like? Think about that ox's ol. It's that big the pole on top and then the 2 loops below that attach to an ox's neck so that the ox can carry a big load. In going across the country, the pioneers of America who went across the country pioneered out west, their animal of choice was an ox rather than a horse. A horse pulls a wagon full of your stuff that you're taking out west as you pioneer with no stores, no Amazon, no Walmart. You have to bring everything with you. And it's not a very big wagon. In that wagon, what you don't want to put is food for your horse, because that takes up valuable space for whatever you need when you get out west. You'd rather attach to that wagon an animal that can eat scrub along the way. That's an ox. An ox is a very strong animal that can carry the wagon, but a very strong animal. But think about what an ox could carry on its back. A lot, but not nearly as much as if you attach it to an ol. If you attach that ox to a yoke, then it can pull the whole wagon. It can carry so much more. But it also curtails its ability. It increases its ability and curtails its ability at the same time. When we accept the ol malchut shamayim, the yoke of the kingdom of heaven, we receive upon us something that makes us so much more powerful and also curtails us. Also makes us pull something we're much, much stronger in pulling it. But it also means we can't go everywhere we want to go. We can't right? Don't follow the passions of your eyes or your heart. That's not where we're supposed to go. We're supposed to go with Torah. There's a path to walk on and a yoke to be bound to that path. But the yoke keeps us on the path, but makes us so much stronger. We can carry so much more when we have that yoke on us. So if we want to be nosei ba'ol, help carry the yoke of our fellow, we certainly can't do it by being weak. And looking at pictures of death and destruction make us weak. We need to be strong. And we'll be strong when we see pictures of Klal Yisrael coming together, donating blood and creating packages and singing and hugging and dancing and creating unity. We're an amazing people. We fight wrong with right, but even more than that, we fight darkness with light. That's what we fight with. We fight with light. That's our tool. We sometimes have to use the sword. It's not our tool of choice. It's a tool that we're forced to use occasionally throughout our history, but we never stoop to the levels of our oppressors. Never. Look throughout history. You will never see a time when, because we've been oppressed, which we have, and who's been more oppressed than us for millennia, that we would ever do something. I don't even want to say what people did to the captives of the Jews. For anybody to say that that's what comes of being occupied or being oppressed, it's not. It's not. Nobody's been more oppressed than us, and we never spat on a child, and we never did anything else horrible that they're doing. We never did it. That's not who we are. But it is who they are, and they're showing who they are. And right now what's happening is not trying to kill the Jews and not trying to annihilate the state, but it's trying to annihilate the light in the world that we are. Not even that we represent, that we are. That it's our job to shine in this world. We are a people of light. And it is our job to shine it in this world. And the forces of darkness want to end that. And they've tried from generation to generation. Behold, dor vador omdim aleinu l'chalatenu v'kadosh baruch hu matzilenu miyadam. In every generation, we are saved by Yad Hashem. But Hashem has told us he wants to be our shadow. Hashem tzilcha. He's our shadow. And a shadow is something that follows us. He told us right in the very beginning with Na'aseh Adam in this week's Parsha. Na'aseh Adam, let us make man. And Kivyachol, he said to us, I'll make you into a blob. You make yourself into a mensch. Right? We're going to do this together. I'll start you off. I'll give you a body and I'll give you breath. I'll give you the capacity to think. But you take your breath and take your capacity to think and use your body to create good thoughts and breathe good words and do good things in this world. Na'aseh Adam. I'll start you off, but I can't finish you. I'm going to give you free will, but take your will and do good stuff with it. And we see from this that people can make choices of all kinds of in bad places, and we can make choices in all kinds of good choices too, all kinds of good places. And just watch the videos and share the videos of the good choices that Jews are making to create light. That is what we do. We meet darkness with light and light and light. And eventually we're going to end the darkness in the world from all the light. I was thinking about what we are fighting, and what we're fighting is Amalek. And I thought it would be worthwhile. Let me just find that. It would be worthwhile to review Amalek and our commandment with Amalek. Let me just find it. Hang on, that's the wrong one. Here it is. Have in mind, it is a mitzvah deraisa to remember Amalek, so you could just have in mind that all this Torah learning that we're doing should be to strengthen the Jewish people, to strengthen us, to strengthen every soldier and protect every soldier and every civilian on the front. Every Jew and every person that's working for the Jewish people should be protected and helped and by the mitzvahs that we're doing and the Torah that we're learning and the tefillah that we'll say, Bezrat Hashem. But just listen to these words. I'm going to read them in Hebrew because they sound so different now, and then I'll read the translation. Zochor et asher asa lecha Amalek baderech betzeitchem mimitzrayim. Asher karcha baderech vayzanav b'chal kol hanechashalim acharecha va'ata ayefe yageh v'lo yireh Elohim. Vaya ba'aniach Adonai Elohecha lecha mechol oivecha misaviv be'eretz asher Adonai Elohecha noten lecha nachala l'rishta timche et zecher Amalek mitachat hashamayim lo tishkach. Remember that which Amalek did to you. On your ways you came forth from Egypt. Where did this attack start? But in the place where we came forth from Egypt, it started in the desert with Ayef Yagea people who were weary of this long gullus, possibly forgetting all the things that we are. And in the desert, having a party and shot down like that by Amalek, who came to attack those who are weak around the edges. That's what he did, that pounced upon you on the way and cut down all those that were weakly trailing after you while you were faint and worn out from such a long gullus, while we're faint and worn out. It's taken so long. Some people are so faint and worn out from trying to pull the load. Some people are so faint and worn out that they've stopped trying to pull the load. They're just done. They're just living their lives. They're just having a party. They're just doing what they can. They're just shopping. They're just filling their homes. They're just filling their lives with whatever it is, because they're faint and weary from carrying this for so long. So they're straggling around the outside edges, but they're still part of us. And they pounced on them. Just like that. Asher karcha b'derech, pounced on them. Therefore, because they did that, when your God will give you rest from your enemies all around and put you in the land that God gives you for an inheritance to take possession of it, you shall blot out timche, blot out the remembrance et zecher Amalek mitachat hashamayim. We do have the mitzvah to kill all of Amalek, but here actually the mitzvah is to wipe out zecher Amalek. So if Hirsch talks about zecher Amalek, what is zecher Amalek? It's actually the concept. Zecher Amalek is the idea that might makes right. Amalek stands for power and strength. Amalek stands for the sword. Amalek stands for torture. Amalek stands for strength, being in charge of everything. And as long as we, as a society or the world, holds that strength is what wins, then we won't have wiped out Amalek. Listen to what Rav Hirsch says in Shemot, where it talks about et zecher Amalek. It's not Amalek who is so pernicious for the moral future of mankind, but zecher Amalek, the glorifying of the memory of Amalek, which is the danger. As long as the annals of humanity cover the memory of the heroes with sword and glory, as long as those that throttle and murder the happiness of mankind are not buried in oblivion, so long will each successive generation look up in worship to those great ones of violence and force, and their memory will awaken the desire to emulate these heroes and acquire equal glory by equal violence and force. So that's what's happening right now. Those who are full of violence and force teach their children violence and force, and they're the heroes of violence and force. And everybody wants to be more violent and more forceful and more disgusting and more horrible. And they make their Facebook videos and they live stream it because that makes them into heroes. And everybody sees their heroic efforts and they want to be like that. That's the power of Amalek. Only when the divine laws of morals have become the sole criterion as to the worth of the greatest and the smallest of men, and no longer in inverse proportion, but in direct proportion to greatness and power, do the demands of morality grow. That means the higher we go, the more moral we have to be. Then and only then will the reign of Amalek cease forever in the world. That this is the final goal of God's management and direction of the history of the world is expressed here after the first weakening of Amalek. I will utterly obliterate the keeping of the remembrance of Amalek as far as the heavens reach. And it's echoed in the Psalms 9:7. The thought is poignantly expressed that only with the doing away of this remembrance of devastations and conquest will the perpetrators of these deeds disappear. Avad zichram hema. So this sentence is so important in Rav Hirsch to see that this is the final goal of God's management and direction of the history of the world. So this week we're starting in the creation of the world, but we're going somewhere. God made the world to bring it to a place, and the place that it's supposed to go to is the conquest of all negativity and the shining of the light. And that's our job, to be engaged in that. We're engaged in the conquest of negativity. That's our role in the world. And Hitler, Yamach Shemo, called us the conscience of the world. That's why he wanted to wipe us out. because he couldn't stand that there was a people alive that just by their life is a conscience in the world. He didn't want a conscience. And we are that in our flesh. That's who we are. And that's the covenant that Hashem made with us, the bris, asher chatamta bivsarenu. It's been carved into our flesh that we're in a covenant with Hashem. We start our boys with a small little cut that says, this thing that can take you astray or that can bring forth the next generation should be directed to Hashem's service. But really, all of our flesh is to follow that and say, every part of me, male and female, is to be brought together in your service. And there's no part that should be left out. No part that should be left out. Our whole job in the world is to use our body to shine the light. That's what it's for. So everything that we do and everything that we refrain from doing, because it's both, it's by doing and by refraining that we shine light in this world. So that's the arc of history that's supposed to be bent towards how we shine light in this world. And I want to share with you a tefillah, because we are at this moment in time supposed to increase in our tefillah and increase in our learning. That's for men and women. Increase in our learning Torah, which we're doing right now, and increase in our tefillah. So I wanted to share with you the tefillah of Adon Olam, because we can say Tehillim, and for some people Tehillim are very meaningful, and for those who are maybe don't connect with every word, it can be harder to say Tehillim, even though some people strive to say them anyway, and hoping that they feel meaning in it, even what they don't. And we can always learn more Torah and understand the Tehillim better. But Adon Olam is one of our tefillot that's so beautiful and can be sung on a regular basis. So almost all of us know it by heart, and it's got so much beauty in it. So I wanted to share it with you today. And I personally, I don't know why, but until just these last few days, I never thought of it as a tefillah. I thought of it as a song, but it's right there in the siddur. It's an actual tefillah. It is a piyut. It's a poem, but it's a poem that shows us the contrast in how we connect with Hashem. Infinite and intimate. Hashem is infinite and intimate. The first 3 verses are infinite, and the second 2 are intimate. So let me share them with you. And then you have this tefillah then that you all know that you can sing, but just think about what you're saying. It's an extra tefillah that we could say on a regular basis. And really, instead of saying Avinu Malkeinu, in a way we're saying Malkeinu Avinu, but it's Boreinu Avinu. Really, it's our Creator, our Father, our Creator, our connected one. So Adon was first said by Avraham, who recognized that the world is, there is a God, but he is actually personal enough that we can say Adon Olam. He runs the world. Asher Malach. So he runs the world and he rules over it. B'terem kol yitzir nivra, before anything was created, Hashem was the king of everything. Le'et na'asa b'chefza kol, in that time that he made everything, azai malach shemo nikra. Then his name, once everything was created, then we could call him king. It's interesting that in a way we open our tefillos with this. Hashem made the world and was the king even before he was called king. But once everything was made, there was somebody to call him king. It's interesting to think about the end of Aleinu, Bayom hahu yeh Hashem echad ushmo echad. He is one, but we don't call him one yet, because the whole world has different names for Hashem. But on that day, not only will Hashem be one, he's going to be called one too. Just like this. Once everybody recognizes, once the world was full of people, full of things, then his name was called king. In the end of everything, he's still going to rule and be majestic. And he was, and he is, and he will be always in glory. There's one of him, and there's not another. Nothing, there's nothing that you could even make a mashal about. There's nothing that can help you understand Hashem except for Hashem's oneness. Without a beginning, without an ending, v'lo ha'oz v'ha'misra, and all glory is to him. So Hashem started everything, runs everything, rules everything. There's nothing like him. Big, huge, powerful, and yet, v'hu Eli, v'chai goli, he's my Hashem, and my Redeemer. V'tzur chavli, and the rock of my salvation, be'et tzara, when I'm having a hard time. Hashem's right there for me. V'hu nisi umanos li, and he's my banner and my connector. Manat kosi, just like kosi revaya in Mizmor LaDavid. He's the portion of my cup, my personal life, b'yom hakra, whenever I call to him. B'yado afkid ruchi, I place my soul in his hands. Be'et ishan v'a'ira, when I'm unconscious and when I'm conscious, both. V'im ruchi geviyati, and with my soul, also my body. Hadosham li v'lo ira, Hashem is with me. I don't need to be scared of a thing, ever. It doesn't mean, for those who asked, that it's going to be comfortable always. It doesn't. It doesn't mean we have the easiest journey with our bodies in this world. But our body and our soul are two separate things that live together. Every time we say Asher Yatzar Umafli La'asot, it's miracles that you do, Hashem, putting our body and our soul together and keeping them together. How could it possibly be that something so sublime as a soul could live in something as earthy as a body? And yet Hashem does the miracle to keep them together. But our enemies can only attack our body. And our body is temporary anyway. And our enemies cannot attack our souls. They can try, and they do try. They're trying right now to demoralize us. And that's why they're making all those horrible videos. They're trying so hard to bring sorrow and despair and make us give up. But anachnu maminim b'nei maminim, we are the children of those who know that Hashem has a long arc of history, and it's going to the good. It's going to the good, even though it's hard. And back to this week's Parsha, it never occurred to me. I taught a Parsha class this morning, so I looked carefully inside, and I saw the curse of the snake only. Only the snake is cursed. Adam and Chava are not. Adam and Chava are given a difficult reality when they're chased out of the garden. Hashem says, okay, I had one pathway of shining light in this world, filling the entire world with inhabitants and shining light. You guys chose a different pathway, but the destination is the same. It's unchanged. The destination is total, deep, loving, abiding relationship with me. But now there's a different way to accomplish it. And so for you, female, Isha, you're going to have to deal with having difficulty in labor and raising children. And for you, Adam, the earth is cursed, not you, but the earth. And you're going to have to contend with a cursed earth. It's going to be hard for you to pull forth things from an earth that's cursed. But you're not. Oh gosh, somebody's ringing my bell. I'm going to pause I'm not going to pause. Anyway, the earth is cursed and you're going to have to deal with that, but you're not cursed. You're given a new pathway forward to create the light that you are destined to create. It's your job to create the light in the world. And I'm going to help you, Hashem said, by giving you a new path. It's a path that includes difficulty, but come to me anyway. That's what I want. Walk across this narrow bridge. You could do it. Adoshem li velo ira, Hashem is my Hashem. I don't have to be scared of a thing. When I cross that narrow bridge, the ha'ikar lo lefached. There's narrow places. We don't have to be scared. We reach up and we hold Hashem's hand and we walk across strong and resolute. I know where I'm going. I'm going to the other side. And the other side is Olam Haba. I'm a bat Olam Haba. And I'm just passing through this narrow bridge. And all I have to do is my best. And Hashem will do all the rest. And that's from Pirkei Avos. We don't have to perfect everything because we can't. But we have to engage in the process all the time. And we can. And for that, I want to bring us back to the Shema, being Noseh B'ol, when we're Makabel Ol Malchut Shemayim. We have to think to ourselves that Ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha v'chol me'odecha. We have to love Hashem with all of our heart, with all of our soul, and with all of our stuff. V'chol levavecha is all of me, every part of me. My heart has to be united. My good and my difficult has to be united. And I have to be able to bring both of me to serve Hashem. Both parts of me, my Yetzer Tov and my Yetzer Hara, has to serve Hashem. And then b'chol nafshecha, I have to be willing to say that my nefesh, which is not my neshama, it's my physical life, I have to be willing to give it over to Hashem. I have to be willing to die, al kiddush Hashem, to give my life, al kiddush Hashem. And we try to prepare ourselves when we say Shema to be willing to do that, should we ever be asked, and we hope we'll never be asked. But we hope that if we're ever asked, we're able to do it. But then even I think the harder request, the harder demand of Hashem is be ready to live your life, al kiddush Hashem. And that's b'chol ma'odecha, with all of your possessions, with all of who you are, with all of your veriness, with all of your ma'od, right? Everything that you have, live your life with that. Al kiddush Hashem. Love Hashem with all of your life, every day, all day long. So some of our brethren are being asked, and we hope that we'll never be asked, and we hope that nobody else is ever asked, actually, to give their life al kiddush Hashem. But we are all in this together, and being noseh b'ol means all of us have to be ready to live our life al kiddush Hashem every day, all day long, every decision, which means bringing all of us to Hashem and all of us to our relationships, creating shalom. Hashem has told us it's not a secret. If you want to know the secret to peace and to ending all of this, shalom. All we have to do is create it, right? That's totally on us. And we've had a very hard time with it. As long as we've been struggling as a nation to keep the mitzvot and shine the light in the world, we've been struggling with shalom. I'm not positive, but it seems to me, and I'm not the biggest scholar in the world for sure, and I wish I knew all of Torah by heart, but Vayichan, when we stood at Har Sinai, that might be one of the few places we all stood together. It might be the only time that we were completely united. But now we're united. They have succeeded. Nobody steps out of Hashem's plan, not even Hamas. It's not possible. And we see from Megillas Esther, which is the last book in Tanakh. I don't think it's placed last, but it's the last in the history of all the books in Tanakh, the book that's before our long gullus, that we don't see Shem Hashem in that book, but we see at the Hashgacha Pratis of those 9 years that we read in 20 minutes. So it's super easy for us to see, oh my gosh, look what happened. Oh, it added up so perfectly. Of course, Haman did this, and then the king read that, and then there was Mordechai, and then there was Esther, and it all worked perfectly, right? But it took 9 years for that to happen. When we read it in 20 minutes, we see so clearly how nobody could step out of Hashem's plan. And when Haman built the gallows, it was for him. He didn't know it. But Hashem flipped it all around. And so Hamas thinks they're out to destroy us. Oh no, they're still the tool of Hashem, bringing us together and uniting us. And Hashem shouldn't need that tool. We should be able to unite ourselves. And nobody can step out of the Ratzon Hashem. Nobody. We all get to choose our role inside of it. But the Ratzon is to bring the world to light and to goodness, and for the Jews to be the instrument of that. That's our privilege and our responsibility, is to bring the world to light. And we're privileged to carry it, and also burdened with carrying it. That's the ol. The ol makes us powerful, and the ol limits us. And we can carry that ol malchut shamayim, receive it on us, and then live it with love, and know that we could bring our whole heart, our whole life, and our whole soul and our whole life to that. And for that, we just need to live the light in this world. We behave it. Light is something you see. It's not something you hear. We hear a talk like this, very nice. And now step away from the screen and go live the light. It means learning more, it means davening more, but it means creating shalom in your heart, under your roof, with your spouse, with your friends, with your parents, with your children, with your neighbors. The more shalom we can create, the more light we bring into this world. Shalom is shlemus. Shalom is shalem. It's wholeness. And the opposite of wholeness is machloket. Inside machloket, you see the root chalek, parts. It's parts. Machloket is when we divide ourselves into parts. It's the opposite of shalem, of whole. We want wholeness, not parts. We want parts that where there's a beauty, like let's say in a rainbow, right? Or when something's been refracted, when white light has been refracted and we see all the parts that weave together to make a beautiful whole, that's good parts. We don't want fractured parts. We want weave together parts to create a wholeness. So that's interesting. Anyway, we want to see whole parts being woven together, wholeness being woven together by all of our disparate energies, and we can do that. That's us, because Hashem is tzilcha, and Hashem will follow us wherever we go. So if we choose to make shalom, Hashem will too. I mean, Hashem is choosing shalom, just He wants us to choose it faster, and He's giving us the space to do that. He does open up the space for us to do what we want to do and go where we want to go. So we could choose peace, and we could choose light, and we can walk forward and create that and make sure that we choose the right things to look at and the right things to share and the right conversations to have and the right tefillos to say and the right Torah to learn, the right light to shine in this world. We should all be zocha to be agents of light in this world. We are agents of light in this world as Jews. Let's hold our hands together and grow together and shine together and ultimately banish the darkness, wiping out the Zecher Amalek. Nobody should even remember what it was like that there was might that trumped things. Once they see all the light that we shine and how light permeates everything and light trumps everything. Be'ezrat Hashem. We should see the Geula Shalema B'mehera B'yameinu.
Thank you so much.